Welcome to a football show Thursday edition, preseason game number 2 for the Tennessee Titans edition, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessean, Pay for Good Journalism. I am Braden Gall. Good to see all of you. If you want to jump into the comments section, please, we're going to go position group by position group today. And, of course, we'll talk about the quarterback as well. Nick, good morning, sir. How is Flowery Branch, Georgia?
I have been everywhere. I've been in Flowery Branch, Georgia. I've been in Decula, Georgia. I've been in Cumming, Georgia. I have been visiting people.
You've been
I've been seeing people. I've been hanging out with people.
Where are you currently?
This is currently my childhood bedroom. If you want me to open up this closet right here, I can show you my most improved player trophies that I consistently won every year of high school football.
Please do.
Okay. When you're talking, I'll turn around and go rummaging. So yeah, we're in Cumming, Georgia, my childhood bedroom. I am overlooking houses that look a little bit different than I remember 15 years ago, but we're here.
I believe you. Do you have the baseball card collection handy?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay. If you're watching on YouTube, please
pick a page.
Check us out.
What page you want me to pull up?
Like something easy, like page 7. I don't know.
1, 2.
Please, if you're in the comment section, thumbs up, notifications turned on. This is obviously great podcast audio content, but it is going to be good YouTube content. So make sure you're watching the show on YouTube. Paul Karski, myself on Mondays, Nick Suss and I on Thursdays. We got SEC Football Live. We got the Gold Standard as well on Wednesdays. We got all kinds of good stuff. New Hot Read podcast coming soon. We're going to have the new evolution of that show coming as well. So lots of good stuff. You got the Paul Karski podcast, Music City Audible, all these great shows you can watch on the 440 Sports YouTube page. And let's see, page 7 of Nick Suss's childhood baseball / basketball / football card collection is.
I've got Moises Alou, Tony Armas Jr., Ryan Klesko.
I want to see it.
Matt Lawton.
Ryan Klesko. I forgot about that
Scott
guy.
Spezio and Rick Ankiel.
I loved Moises Alou. Pee on your hands, no batting gloves. Let's go. Looking good, dude. Looking good.
Yeah, it's a good collection.
That page wasn't very full.
Card in here for some reason.
That page wasn't very full, Nick.
I spaced it out. You don't.
Are you a front back? Are you a front back guy? Like you put 2 cards on one sleeve so that you maximize the space, or
no? I liked seeing the details on the back.
Of course you did. Eddie, good morning, sir. Good to see you as well. All right. So generally, broadly, I want to start with Cam's progress from the game. You and I have not talked about the game. I thought it was pretty solid. Go back and listen to Paul and I on Monday if you want sort of my full opinion. But I want to know what you saw on Saturday night and then how he then took it and used it or didn't use it through this week of practice. You can analyze this week as we go. But I'm curious about your broad spectrum of growth, progress, or lack thereof, whatever it might be in your opinion, from the quarterback over the last 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, I think I said this coming out of Tampa joints, but I will reiterate it coming out of the Tampa game. The big takeaway I have on Cam at this point in his career is he is good enough to start an NFL game right now. He projects as one of the top 32 quarterbacks on earth. And he said that himself yesterday after a joint practice in Atlanta. He feels if he had to start a game right now, he'd be ready. He wants more reps. He wants more opportunities to learn and fine-tune the details. But I watched that game against Tampa, and they were going against backups, and the offensive line wasn't really challenged, and the receivers were able to get open, and all of this stuff we understand with a grain of salt. But I'm also looking at the way he handles a huddle, the way he calls the operation, the way he runs the offense. And it looked competent. It looked ready. It doesn't look like it looks when Josh Allen does it or Lamar Jackson or any of these guys that are at the top of their game. But it looks like a guy who belongs where he belongs. So as we project out of that into now the joint practice here in Atlanta, I don't want to say it was a step backwards, but it certainly wasn't a step forward. It is just a continuation on his maturity, on his understanding of what the game is. I think that he is at a point where we can be very, very nitpicky and very, very critical of each individual mistake while kind of not paying as big attention to the big picture view. Sometimes we'll get nitpicked, and we're going to talk a lot about throwing the ball out of bounds later. That's a big deal in his process. But like, I don't know. It's a lot of checkdowns. It is a lot of processing through the play, a lot of understanding where the ball needs to go, and admitting that he is learning how to understand where the ball needs to go. And if the ball goes where it needs to go, that's your referendum on the scheme. That is the question of, well, is the offense going to work if the ball goes where it needs to go? Because it didn't very often last year. So there's your referendum on the scheme, I guess.
Yeah. First of all, I'm glad he thinks he can. If he had to start a game today, I'm glad he could do that, because he's got to do that on Saturday. So he's in the middle of starting the games at this point. So the season, as Brian Callahan said before practice yesterday, I believe, right? The season's like it's going to be here real fast.
Very fast, yeah.
It's coming, and I think there's little like this is how I feel too. And I didn't have a chance to watch practice, obviously, the last 2 days. It sounds like on Wednesday. It sounds like on Tuesday it was pretty brutal. Got a little bit better on Thursday. We'll get into some of the details of that in just a second. But I still don't know. Like, okay, how about this? The drive that was solid, even though it had a few B throws and a really bad throw, and then a couple of really great throws. And I said this on Monday's show. Like, I still don't think I've changed much of my opinion of his ability to succeed or fail in the future. I thought he showed great poise in the game on Saturday and confidence, but that is sort of what we expect from him because of his, not only because of where you're drafted and what the expectations are, but also like that's kind of how he's wired. And one of the major positives is that he's very even keel and confident and mature and poised. And so I think I didn't see anything that made me jump out of my chair. But I'm not concerned about anything either. Like, his footwork needs work. Okay, we knew that going in.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I've always been, the most important thing I've enjoyed about Cam Ward is his ability to take a mistake and then apply the lesson of that mistake. And that's why I was a little bit concerned about the throwaway interception apparently yesterday, because that was the thing against Tampa where he rolls right, he extends the play, but if you're going to throw it away, like, make sure you're hitting the position coach in the face, make sure it's out of bounds. And then he did the same thing yesterday and made the mistake, and it's an interception. So those are the things where you like, I've really enjoyed watching him take a mistake, process it, learn, and then apply the lesson.
Sure.
And that didn't necessarily happen in this case, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just one of those, another moment where you go, all right, dude, you got to learn from that. You got to learn from that. But I think he does that very well, which I think is one of the most important attributes of an NFL quarterback.
Oh, I agree. And that is one of the things that makes the non-throwaway alarming. I was standing right there. He got flushed out of the pocket. There was a blocking mistake on the right side of the offensive line. It was unclear whether it was from Zeitler or from Latham, but somebody ends up in his face. He's flushed out of the pocket. He very much had time to get the ball out of bounds, but he rushed the throw. He rushed the throw away with somebody in his face, and he didn't get enough air under it or didn't get enough power under it, whatever you want to call it. And the ball fluttered right into D. Alford's arms. That almost happened against Tampa. He also had the situation where he nearly threw an interception against Tampa in the drive they ended up scoring a touchdown. The fact that he is unbothered by the reality that quarterbacks will throw interceptions is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But one thing that does need to be articulated, he's not trying to throw interceptions. He doesn't want to throw interceptions.
That needs to be articulated?
Yes. I think that if you hear somebody say, well, I'm going to throw interceptions, it's just like, well, why not just try not to? If you think you're gonna, just try not to.
I feel like that's more of a commentary on our collective intelligence as a society.
Sure. Yeah.
Than anything else.
Just want to reiterate, because he is unbothered does not mean he is okay with those things can feel synonymous sometimes. But
I'm unbothered by the tunnel being built under our city, but like, it doesn't mean I love it. Continue.
Yeah. So watching that play, my takeaway was, oh, he rushed it. He's just got to throw it harder. I don't know if that was the conclusion from the Tampa play. And I don't want to get super pedantic and talk about the difference between throwing it away because you're running out of space next to the sideline and throwing it away because there's a rusher in your face. But those were two different situations that triggered the throwaway. So it might not have been the exact same mistake in his head, but it was the exact same output of not throwing the ball out of bounds. Yeah. So both situations he has to learn from, both situations he has to learn. And he said this yesterday, that you don't have to throw it deep. You can throw it laterally as long as it crosses the line of scrimmage. And
3 yards downfield. All you got to do is 3 yards downfield.
And so
hit Jim Fossil in the face. He'd probably catch it.
John, right?
So John, God, duh.
But yeah, I think that he knows the idea. So let's see him apply it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see some news and notes here, and then we'll go position group by position group, and we'll get back to the quarterback, but for different reasons, because PK's very worked up about the backup quarterback, and then the Titans made a bunch of changes, so there you go, or at least a change. All right, Sinkers Beverages, of course, want to say shout out. I know I did this on Monday, but I want to say again, reiterate how awesome Saturday night was, 40th birthday party at Basement East following Tomato Fest. It was three great bands, totally different vibes and sounds, and they put out gave a ton of stuff away, golf bags and coolers and gift cards and a trip to, go pick out a Blanton's barrel pick, all kinds of cool stuff. And I say all that to say, number one, thanks for all the folks that came out, and thanks to all the folks that make Sinkers such a staple in the community. They do this kind of stuff for their customers. I think it's an indicator of the kind of business that they are and the kind of people that they are. So make sure you sign up for the in-crowd when you go in there. Oh, you're gonna go dig.
I told you I would.
You're gonna go dig for your high school trophies. All right, Al Bundy, go for it.
You told me to.
Go for it. Go for it. No, it's okay. Go for it. If you're watching, Nick is rummaging through his childhood closet for his high school football trophies. Sign up for the in-crowd at Sinkers Beverages. It allows you to get access to cool stuff ahead of time, right? Those are enormous trophies. And allocations, bourbon drops, tastings, all kinds of events that are happening at the store. So make sure you sign up for that. You'll get alerted to that stuff. They don't bombard your email box. It's a couple of them a year, but you get some cool stuff and access to cool stuff. And of course, search Uber Eats if you're having some drinks this weekend and you run out of booze, you run out of drinks, you need some more of something. Make sure you search Uber Eats for Sinkers Beverages, and they will deliver the booze directly to your house. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, the best brisket in the city. That's it. You don't need to know anything else. It is the best brisket in the city. 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday, just on Briley Parkway, just right there in Madison, kind of north of East Nashville, less than 10 minutes from Nissan Stadium. All right, Nick, let me see those. Like, you're telling me, is this just a Georgia high school thing?
It is probably
that they give out. Like, I was all region receiver, and I was receiver of the year on my team, and my little trophy is like this big. It's like a 4-inch by 4-inch plaque. You have an entire football for just being most improved.
So this is from my sophomore year. If you can see, for those watching, they misspelled my name. So this is for Niche Sus. So that Braden has walked away. For those who are listening, he has just totally left the podcast. This was for the person who was most embodying what the coaches wanted out of a player. So it is essentially just the Lackey Award. But yeah, this was my sophomore year Lackey Award. This was my junior year Most Improved on Offense Award. So yeah, they gave out a big friggin' trophy for
those.
Most
Are
Improved.
Enormous trophies. Okay, so this is not even from Franklin High School. This is from like the TSSAA or whatever.
Yeah.
I was all region receiver, and look how tiny this thing is compared to yours. Yours was given away by a team. This was given away by an entire state. An entire state gave this away. So I also find it hilarious that we have these. I have access to this immediately in my closet.
These are two different congrats on having a good GPA awards.
Most improved.
Nice.
Basically, you and I were once terrible at football.
The best one,
and then we were less terrible after that.
The best one, and I cannot find it. I wish I had it handy. There was a tri-county award ceremony for every player, or every coach got to pick one player of the year for their team. And this is good high school football in Georgia. This is Gwinnett County. This is Fulton County. Forsyth County, where I grew up, isn't good.
Much better football than Middle Tennessee. That's for sure.
So I was invited and expected to win some Scholar Athlete Award, as I always seemed to win, because the only other awards were given out to teams' players of the year. But then I realized my coach didn't understand how hyphens worked. And so he thought the award went to the team player of the year, not to the team player of the year. So everybody else, every other coach is getting up on stage and going, man, this guy's a 4-star athlete. He's got offers from Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia. He had 100 catches this year. He's our team player of the year. And then my coach gets up there and goes, boys, Suss was the first one in locker room every day. He's cleaning up the weight room after practice. He's helping me set up the drills. He's helping me figure out the rotations. He is the ultimate team player. And I'm just like, oh, no. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek, man. This is unbelievable. Well, they gave me a GPA trophy and put the number on it. That's not cool.
Well, nerds run the world, so it's all right. We generally work out in life when we're nerds. All right, that was
no more Al Bundy.
Al Bundy brought to you by Busch Light, which you can get at Seeker's Beverages. What did Al Bundy drink? I don't even know. I'm sure he was cracking beers the entire. Wasn't he cracking beers most of the show? Anyway,
yeah, I think it was just generic. Beer brand.
Yeah, didn't matter back in the day. Just said beer in big black font on it.
Heisler.
All right, so some news and notes here. Lloyd Cushenberry activated? Question mark.
Yeah, he's off the pup. He's not fully practicing beyond individual periods yet. We'll see how quickly he can progress toward full contact. He said he doesn't really know what he needs to do to progress to that next step. It's up to the training staff. It's up to feel. It's all that stuff. But yeah, he's back off pup, and he is theoretically still planning to be back for week 1. That is still his goal. We'll see how it can work.
If we'll get to this when we talk offensive line and pass rush and corner, but anything that adds depth to this roster is a huge positive.
Correct.
Otis Reese was waived. They signed Brian Asamoah as a 3rd-round pick linebacker for the Vikings the last 3 years. He's played in 46 games, which is a lot, but he had a total of 30 tackles in 3 years and just 6 last year. So this is not a player who got a lot of reps in regular football situations. So I don't know what you make of that. I know that we'll talk about linebacker a little bit more with Cedric Gray. The amount of college football names that are completely worthless that's in the back of my head is quite concerning.
Right.
Cedric Gray got some reps with the first team. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Any thoughts on the linebacker? Is this just depth churning in your opinion?
This is depth churn, and this is just.
Okay.
Look, I've known Otis Reese since I covered him in his Ole Miss days. It has been a long time that I've covered this guy. It is a bummer that he is no longer on the team, but you guys can read the tea leaves. He didn't really practice in OTAs and minicamp. He was an active scratch in a preseason game, which almost never happens. Yeah, make your own conclusions about what happened. That's that.
Man, had some promising moments last year.
For sure,
But that was a year ago. So. And then, of course, the big one, which is Tim Boyle, after 1.8 yards per attempt, which is hard to do in a preseason game against guys that aren't going to be on a roster. He is released, and Trevor Siemian, who has played lots of NFL football, over relatively speaking, I guess, has been signed. What do you make of that? How much does the backup quarterback matter? I know PK is on a heater about this. Like, hey, you should be trying to make the backup quarterback as good as possible. Certainly, if you are being compared to Kirk Cousins as a backup quarterback, or even Kyle Trask, it is going to look bad. I think those are two of the best backup situations in the sport. But Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, a little churn there as well. What do you make of it?
I'm pulling up something I wrote the other day. Let me read you some stats because I like doing that. I don't have my Geek Corner sign, but let's call this Geek Corner for the heck of it. Preseason week 1, Cincinnati Bengals backups Desmond Ridder and Jake Browning combined 13 for 30. Preseason week 1, Baltimore Ravens backups Cooper Rush and Devin Leary combined 5 for 16. Preseason week 1, Kansas City Chiefs backups Bailey Zappi and Chris Olodokun combined 14 for 30. That is 3 AFC contenders, 3 of probably the 4 or 5 favorites to win the AFC. And their backup quarterbacks all below 50% combined passing. Does that mean that any of them are as bad as Tim Boyle? No. Like, Tim Boyle was 2 for 8 with 2 interceptions, one of which being a pick 6 or whatever. Like, he was very, very bad. But we do have to keep the perspective. Thank you, Braden. I see your sign. But we do have to keep the perspective. Backup quarterbacks, and 3rd-string quarterbacks in particular, not very good. Trevor Siemian, probably not going to turn the ball over as much, probably not going to have a 0.6 passer rating. If Trevor Siemian plays, the Titans probably aren't going to win very many games. They're probably going to lose a little bit less uglily. Is that the word? Uglyish?
Sure. I like ugly. Uglyish is a good word. I like uglyish.
it's going to be a less ugly loss than Tim Boyle. It's going to probably be more watchable, but it might be less watchable. Like, honestly, it might be a brand of boring that is less compelling than a train wreck. So you never know.
Train wrecks are quite compelling.
All I know is that if you are looking to upgrade from Tim Boyle, the upgrade is going to be such a small incremental upgrade that you might as well just be betting on potential. Like some of those guys I mentioned, like Devin Leary, never played an NFL game before. See if you can develop somebody who you know who they might be. I don't know. It's a good move. Tim Boyle should not be on an NFL roster, but I don't know if there is any move the Titans can make short of like coaxing a Hall of Famer out of retirement that would. I don't know. I don't know how your third string quarterback is gonna.
I don't think it matters.
Be an upgrade. Yeah,
I don't. Trevor Siemian might be better than Braden Allen
he could be
at his best. I don't know if that's what he can deliver anymore. So we shall see. Z Dean says, how many quarterbacks do teams typically keep? Some teams have like 4. The Browns.
Yeah, since the rule change a couple of years ago, it has become more common to roster 2 and keep a third as an emergency who can be on your practice squad but be elevated for game days. I think that is generally the standard. I think some teams do roster 3 full time. It is very, very rare for a team to roster 4 heading into a season.
I do think Kenny Pickett might be better than both Siemian and Allen. So if he is waived, the Browns have to do something. And I do want to ask you this because I brought it up with PK on Monday. Now that Shedeur his name has landed in the comment section. Do you think it's good for Cam Ward that he is the personality type that does not have the engagement gravitational force of a player like Shedeur Sanders, that the Titans as an organization are a little bit under the radar, that this whole thing is going to kind of go a little more under the radar than a traditional number 1 pick or a rock star type of story like Sanders?
Yeah, let me ask, when you say engagement, do you mean it in the like fan sense or in the media behind the scenes, what we have to define as engagement sense?
No, like, fan and like just the gravitational force of interest, Q rating.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
like the Q rating on Shedeur Sanders is off the charts for all the reasons we know. And my theory on Monday was because Cam does not have that inherently in who he is and his storyline and the fact that the Titans are young, like all the things that we know that make Cam Ward being number 1 and the Titans picking him at number 1 less interesting than a traditional number 1 overall pick, gives him, I think, a little bit more freedom to kind of just be in his own skin and be comfortable and learn at his own pace. And I don't know, I think it's a good thing. That's my theory, at least.
It's a double-edged sword, or it's a catch-22, whatever you want to call it, because I think there is an argument to be made that the pressure that comes from being a number 1 quarterback can be overwhelming. And if Cam can avoid the weight of that pressure, that's good. Yeah. But I also think the attention that comes from being somebody that people think is good is also something you try to live up to. And if you are forgotten, it's much easier to play like you're forgotten. There is a standard.
He doesn't need that. He doesn't need that, though. Like, he'll never play like he's forgotten. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's lived his whole life trying to play like he's not forgotten.
I get that, but I do think there is a live up to who you are thing that, for as much as we talk about how great he was at Incarnate Word and how great he was at Miami, the Washington State years weren't necessarily overwhelmingly dominant. And the jump to Miami does kind of feel like the lights are bright, let me show you who I really am thing. For as much as we talk about him playing like a 0-star recruit, he also did play his best football at the biggest stage with the best players around him against the best competition. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to say that feeding the 0-star mentality is going to continue to give him that 0-star mentality when also he got to Miami and played better than he ever played before. So the lights shining bright does help him to a degree too.
And it's not even, and Austin says Jalen Hurts seems to be working out, same kind of attitude. It's not even necessarily like the sort of attitude. It's just that like some people, some individuals have a greater ability to attract attention than anybody else.
Sure.
And he and I don't think anyone does it on purpose or not. Like Sanders didn't even do it because of himself. He did it because of his dad. His dad did it to him.
Yeah.
And then he's taken it and ran with it. But I just think that there's certain, like Tim Tebow is another one, right? Like Tim Tebow just got attention about things that don't matter.
Sure.
And that attention has an effect on you eventually. And some people can handle it and some people can't. I just think it's good because like if he's good, because the truth of the matter is there's no less pressure on Cam Ward than any other quarterback.
Right.
There's the pressure to win in the NFL is equal across the board. But is there more stress, more noise, more things you got to cope with, process, deal with if you are just inundated with constant attention and everything you're doing is recorded? And I just think that can have an effect on a human being, because I think we're all human, and that kind of microscope does things to people. It just does.
And I don't know. I would believe that. I don't know. I'm choosing my words carefully because I'm not an incendiary person on this topic. It doesn't really bother me one way or the other. But like, if Cam has a 5-part documentary coming out, and if Cam is putting out videos of what he's doing in the off season, and if Cam has been a guy who is willing to do that sort of stuff, I think he likes attention in the same way that everybody in this modern era likes attention. We put ourselves out there. You and I are doing a podcast right now. We like attention. So I don't think that he would be bummed if his Q rating went up.
No, I don't think so.
But I agree to your point that it is not as high, and that could be beneficial. I think that's the point.
Yeah, and maybe that's my point too, is it's not even it's regardless of the human or the team. It is almost always better to have the temperature just a little bit lower than the temperature to be off the charts boiling all the time.
With the possible exception of Baker Mayfield.
Right. Are there any showy quarterbacks in the league? And like, am I wrong? And I said, well, Baker Mayfield's one of the first ones that comes to mind. I think Burrow has that kind of Q rating, and Mahomes certainly does. I think Lamar's got it. Allen's got it. But I think maybe this is Austin's point. Like, none of those guys are like 1980s rock and roll band frontman. You know, like I was watching the band at the Sinkers party, and there was like a Zeppelin style, like 80s combo Zeppelin style, like heavy metal, not heavy metal, like hard rock band, great guitar riffs.
Right.
But this guy was dressed, and if you checked out my Instagram, you could see it. This guy's dressed like David Bowie, like long blonde hair and like red suspender pants, and like looked like a traditional 80s rock star. And I was looking at my buddies going like, we don't have many of these guys anymore. Like we don't have the Kurt Cobain types anymore. Jack White is maybe one of the only ones. And I think maybe that's Austin's point about quarterbacks, is that we don't have that like Joe Namath kind of like Brett Favre, and there's some flaws in there too, but like we don't have those kinds of personality types. Shador's certainly one of them, but I don't even know if he's a quarterback in the NFL. So Baker's one of them. I don't know who else is in that group. Now we're off topic, but
but now you've reminded me to tell a quick story. About 7 or 8 years ago, I went to a cover band night in Baton Rouge, where it was like Van Halen cover band, Nirvana cover band, Guns N' Roses cover band, and maybe Aerosmith was the fourth. I can't remember what the fourth was.
That's a lot of uncombed hair.
And the craziest part was the guy who was doing the Guns N' Roses part was doing an Axl Rose impression, and he dressed as Axl Rose, and he had the hair and he had the wig. And then I watched him go off stage, and when he went backstage, I saw him take off the wig, and he was bald. And the illusion of rock stardom shattered for me in that moment of just like, oh, you can just put on a wig and be Axl Rose? That's crazy.
Yeah. It's hard to do that with Kurt Cobain. You got to live the life, I feel like.
Sure. But let's talk about the Tennessee Titans, and let's grade some football players.
So let's talk running backs here. Obviously, the news with Tajay Spears being out for at least a foreseeable future, high ankle sprain. C+ is your grade for the running back so far. Mullings, Chestnut, and Mims seem like the three that are going to compete for probably 2 spots. Tony Pollard's a starting player in the NFL. I like his fantasy chances. I think he's a good value pick where he's being drafted. I think he's a productive 1,000-yard back. I think he gives Brian Callahan what he wants. But now there is no break, right? At least for now. We'll see when Spears is back. But you really need that number 2 guy in the NFL these days.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I was asked by somebody on a radio show, I can't remember which, about, well, do the Titans need to replace Tajay Spears? Do they need a Tajay Spears type to be behind Tony Pollard? When Tajay got hurt last year, they didn't bother. Like, they just let Tony Pollard be the guy for 3 or 4 weeks. I wouldn't be shocked if that ends up being the outcome here. If Tajay is hurt long enough to miss week 1, but not long enough to justify being on injured reserve, I think you can roll with Tony Pollard and then Mullings and Chestnut as power backs. You can keep Mims around. Mims has been competing for spots, but I think that Chestnut and Mullings are 2A, 2B, or 3A, 3B, whichever way you want to look at it with Spears in the mix. And the reason the grade's so high is because I still like what I see from Tony Pollard. I don't know if the wheels are going to fall off. Running backs, when they fall off, and it'll happen. But the depth behind him, still a bit of a concern. I haven't been super duper impressed by Mullings. Chestnut has been up and down. He had a really ugly fumble on day one against the Falcons, but otherwise has been himself. Depth isn't an overwhelming concern, because if you just put Tony back there, Tony's going to be healthy enough and workload guy enough to carry it 20 times. But you do hamstring your passing game if you don't have somebody that you trust to be able to rotate in on third downs.
Was the Pollard long touchdown run a thing that was real on Thursday, or was it just one of those runs in practice where they kind of let him go?
I was watching the defense yesterday, so I unfortunately cannot tell you.
Copy that. C+ for wide receiver is your grade so far. And I thought was interesting is and I agree with your analysis here, which is that it feels like Calvin Ridley and then 4 number 3s or number 4s, but also that it's significantly deeper and maybe more consistent than we have seen from this position group in a number of years. And it feels weird that those things can all coexist, but they do. How are the receivers this week?
Yeah, the way I would put it is I think the Titans' number 6 receiver, potentially the Titans' number 7 receiver, would make a lot of teams. And that's new for this franchise. Yeah. That's rare for this franchise. There is depth here. I don't know that the Titans' number 2 receiver would start for a lot of teams. So that is the balance you're weighing, is you have depth, you have consistency, you have guys like Chimere Dike, Alec Iomanner, Bryce Oliver, James Prochet, who are ostensibly, I'll throw Van Jefferson in there, ostensibly 3 through 7 in this bunch, who on any given day, based off of the roster dynamics right now, I wouldn't be shocked if one was a guy who got 5 or 6 targets in a game. I wouldn't be shocked if one was inactive.
Yep.
It's a lot to manage. There is a lot going on at that position. I am not overwhelmingly impressed by the output, but I am impressed by the depth.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's why it's a C+ grade, which is on the higher side among these grades, if we're being honest. Which
is a concern.
It's a concern, but I do like the situation the Titans have at wide receiver right now.
Tight end, you gave him a C, which is Chig's had a pretty good camp. He's been in a different kind of mental place. After I talked to him, I figured that out, and I think physically he's in a good spot. He knows he's got a contract year coming up, so I think he's had a decent camp. And then Gunnar Helm has, he's a rookie tight end. You see the talent flash. Then there's some moments where you're like, okay, consistency is an issue, but a tight end's a very tricky position from a physicality standpoint in the NFL. After that, we kind of know what's there. You have long said Josh Wiley's not really a factor on this team from a roster standpoint. You got David Martin Robinson and Thomas Odukoyo, and you gave him a C, so behind the running backs and the receivers.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that since maybe week 1 of training camp, I have seen much of anything from David Martin Robinson, Thomas Odukoyo, or Josh Wiley in the passing game that makes me think, oh, they are overwhelming playmakers that need a spot because of that. I will cop to not spending very much time watching tight end blocking drills. There's just not enough time of the day for that to be my priority, so I'm not going to speak broadly and authoritatively on the observations of who has the edge as a blocker. Odukoya has generally had that edge. Yep. He's got the bigger body frame. I don't know. I probably could have gone lower. I probably could have gone C- on this position, but generally I like what I see from Chig this camp. So he is kind of buoying this as Helm's potential. He could be a guy by week 8 who raises to be the number 1, but right now Chig has been in that rotation of guys that Cam Ward seems to trust the most, and that matters.
I think it's 1A, 1B that switches to 1A, 1B later, right? Like Chig is 1A, Helm is 1B, and then at the end of the year, you probably want it to be Helm 1A, Chig 1B. But again, we're talking about
Right now I would go a little different. I would say it's 1 and 2, and your hope is to get it 1A, 1B by the end of the year. But totally up to interpretation.
No, that's fair. B for the offensive line. The best position group on the Titans was the offensive line this week. What?
Look, we've watched 3 training camp practices, joint practices. We've watched a preseason game. I don't have a problem with the offensive line right now. I don't know what monkey's paw has been rubbed. I don't have a problem with the offensive line right now. If you have elevated the tackle spot from 32nd in the NFL to 16th in the NFL, that is a much bigger jump than jumping from 16th to first. Like, that is a much more notable, much more significant jump if you can get from bad to average. And I think that's what the Titans have done on the perimeter. Season can start, and I could be totally wrong. It's not as if Tampa Bay and Atlanta are teams that are notable for having A1 caliber pass rushers. All respect to Jalen Walker and James Pierce and Shaquille Barrett and some of these guys. It's not Myles Garrett. It's not Max Crosby. It's not some of the guys they're going to encounter within this season. But the pass rush has not been something that made me think, oh no, they're broken. I watched 29 snaps on Tuesday, the first day of the joints in Atlanta. And I think Cam was pressured to a point that would have affected his play style 3 times. Cam said it yesterday, and this is too specific of a thing for him to not be coming from a basis of something. Yesterday, Cam said he trusts his offensive line to keep him upright 8 plays out of 10. The phrase is 9 times out of 10. That is the cliche. That is the thing we say in society. So the fact that he said 8 times out of 10 makes me believe there is a statistical backing to this. And if you look at a 20% pressure rate, it doesn't sound great. That would have been the 7th or 8th best offensive line by pass blocking metrics in the NFL last year.
If the Titans had allowed a 20% pressure rate, that would be a top 10 offensive line. That's right. Yeah.
And so if Cam is sitting here saying, oh, they're going to keep me up 8 times out of 10, that is either the goal or that is what they're producing at right now. And either way, that's an upgrade. Yeah. I will say I'm still unconvinced and uninspired by the backup tackle options, but I do think there is a lot of depth on the interior. You got Corey Levin, Andrew Upsich, Jackson Slater, Brendan Hymas, Sam Mustford, a lot of guys I trust on the interior. So
frankly, Jalen Duncan should be an interior offensive line.
So the depth is not as gigantic of a concern as it is. You just got to figure out who your swing tackle is, whether Blake Hance is interior or exterior, or whatever you want to figure out. Upsich can do it. You got to figure that out. But otherwise, somewhat encouraged by this O-line.
I mean, hypothetically, if you were to spend $140 million, 2 top 15 draft picks, and hire what is largely considered to be one of the premier offensive line coaches in the NFL, I think it's fair to expect progress.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of resources. That's a lot of assets, and it's a lot of focus. And so it's about damn time there's been results.
And I'm gonna end up writing about this in the near future, so I'm not gonna spoil the entire thing. But I asked a Titans executive recently, you guys say ideal team a lot. Describe your ideal team to me. And we went position group by position group, priority by priority, of this is how you build your ideal team. First step, second step, third step, all the way through. And the first step in his mind was you just have to have a good offensive line. Like, there is no getting around it. That is the first step. And the Titans' priorities are reflecting that. So whether that is you say it because you did it, or you did it and that's why you say it, we can parse that as much as you want, but they are reflecting their agenda.
Also, it's the one position group you just cannot fix throughout the course of the season. You can find running backs, you can find receivers, you can find tight ends, you can develop linebackers, you can find depth pieces. The offensive line, if it starts bad in week 2 or 3, it's just going to be a problem all year. And it's one of the most frustrating things as a football fan is to just have to watch, knowing every play of every game the rest of the year is going to be like, well, who knows? Look, I think it's that's a lot of resources and a lot of assets in there. Eddie says, question, because it's fun and new, who on the Titans has a chance of winning Protector of the Year? I think it's Peter Skoronski without even question there. More important for the team, Ed says, Helm, Winston, or the receivers as rookies taking over a starting role by the end of the year. I don't know. Maybe Winston. I think Oladejo is the one that needs to be on there. But
yeah, Oladejo is probably more important than those guys. Yeah. I would say, based on contract dynamics, Helm and Winston probably have an edge over DK and Io Manor because they are both theoretically replacing guys on contract years. Chig on a contract year. Amani Hooker and Roger McCreary both on contract years. DK and Io Manor, Ridley's still around, and you know that stuff. But for a health of the team perspective, wide receivers are more important than safeties and tight ends are.
Yeah,
so,
I'm thinking depth in the secondary, and like I just think Oladejo, if he's a starter all season long, is one of the biggest developments, because you and I talked at our gathering after the draft that like this guy's going to take some time. He's a development prospect. He moved from changed positions, et cetera, et cetera. He's been sort of a one of those things we haven't talked a lot about because it's kind of just already been pretty good. We'll see what it looks like in a game.
Yeah.
Austin says, did the Titans sign anyone of note before game one? Any thoughts there? I mean, certainly it's possible.
I do believe that you are going to need to keep your head on a swivel the first day of waiver claims.
Yeah.
I don't know how significant you consider those to be, but I would not be shocked if it's 5, 6, 7 waiver claims of churn at the bottom of the roster. The Titans are going to have a lot of waiver claiming to do. Ed brings up Judon and Smith and some of these guys. Fundamentally, if somebody who you have heard of is still a free agent this time of year,
it's an option.
It's money.
Money. Exactly.
They're waiting on money. If you have heard of this person, it's money. So let's see what the money does.
Yeah. If it comes down, then they got an option. Shaker says, are y'all afraid that Callahan is going to throw too much playbook at Cam? I don't know if that's a thing you can do.
You gotta throw the full playbook at him. I know we're all familiar with the stories of like the Panthers oversimplifying the playbook to match what Cam can do, Cam Newton, in the Panthers sense. I don't necessarily think that Cam Ward is Cam Newton.
No.
Like, you can oversimplify a playbook for a Lamar Jackson type talent, for a Cam Newton type talent, where there is no defending overwhelming speed. Like, that is just a thing. Or in Cam Newton's case, overwhelming physicality. But if you are somebody who's going to try to win from within the pocket, I think you have to give the full playbook to the guy.
I tend to agree. Let's see here. Last one. Jordan says, Braden, I'll have you know I hit up Shotgun Willie's on my way to BNA for lunch, followed by some 8th and Roast coffee, a proud sponsor of a lot of other shows on the network. At D Terminal, the things my tummy does for this pod, no regrets. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, best brisket in the city. Homemade side items, homemade from scratch desserts and cornbread. They have a mechanical bull, which one day we will get Nick Suss on. And, of course, free parking. Less than 10 minutes from Nissan Stadium. Free parking, not a thing. That's a big deal in Nashville, Tennessee these days. All right.
Let me tell you guys, these great sponsors in no way reflect the quality of the Tennessee Titans defense, which we are about to talk about. So let's talk about the defense, you guys.
Ooh, we got a bunch of D's on this side of the ball. B, though, for the defensive line, which it is standard because I think when you look at the position group with the most pure talent, it is the starting defensive line, which is Sebastian Joseph Day, Simmons, and Sweat. And Sweat, of course, back standing on the sideline in some shorts yesterday. It looked like he was back at practice, but after the tonsillectomy. So, Jordan says, don't wear your Titans coach's polo in Shotgun Willie's. Pro tip. He is the official barbecue of the Houston Oilers, not the Houston Texans and not the Tennessee Oilers or the Tennessee Titans. He is a fan in NFL purgatory forever because he's not a Titans fan and he's not a Texans fan, but he's from Houston and lives in Nashville. It's a very complicated existence. All right. So defensive line, a lot of depth is just okay.
Depth is a concern. Depth
Major
is a
problem.
gigantic concern. I think James Lynch is a good player. I think somebody like Cam Horsley or maybe somebody like Isaiah Rakes could stick around.
Yep.
But this is a position where it seems to be a pretty significant candidate to be one of those waiver claim spots. We'll see what ends up happening. We'll see who ends up on the practice squad. Carlos Watkins is a veteran. Timmy Horn is a veteran. Josiah Bronson. There are dudes who can fill space. But if we're talking top level depth, they don't have it.
Yeah. So position where they have no top level or front level or middle level or back level of any kind. D+ for the edge. Arden Key apparently had a nice day.
He did. Arden Key had a really nice
on
day
Thursday. And what it got me thinking is, like, of all the practices I've seen and been to, which is not all of them, but I would say like 2/3. I honestly, there was a couple of pressures on Cam Ward in the Titans stadium practice, but a lot of that was Simmons. I think there was one really nice rep from like Oladejo. I cannot remember a moment in all of Titans training camp where a defensive end / pass rusher edge player made a significant play. The sacks I'm remembering are like Kevin Winston blitzes, or like I am trying to remember a moment where an edge player had a big dominant win. I can't remember one.
Yeah, and credit to Arden. There was a stretch where he had 4 consecutive plays with either a sack or a QB hurry.
Awesome.
And one of them was on a 3rd down, one of them was on a 4th down. But we know this about Arden. He's a flashy player. And I mean, like, he comes in flashes. Like, he'll have a 3-week stretch where he looks like a dude who should be a 12-sack-a-year guy, and then he'll disappear for a month. So this kind of tracks with the Arden we've seen for the last 3 years. But yeah, the depth is an issue at this position. The top-end pass rushing ability is an issue. But this team is betting on big, powerful edge players who can set the edge against the run.
Stop the run, yeah.
And that is the bet here. So if we think of this position less as a pass rush utility and more as an edge setting utility, maybe these guys are doing their jobs. But the run defense didn't look great against Tampa. So,
well, I don't know how much I buy into that. It's like a lot. It's a lot of carries.
Yeah.
I thought they were pretty good in the first half or the first quarter. So I don't think it's like I don't think they set out this offseason to say, look, we're going to address the edge position by going big to stop the run. I think you address the edge position by going big to stop the run because you can't get an elite pass rusher.
Agreed.
It's a secondary strategy, which is totally fine. In fact, probably pretty smart because they do have some pieces as we get into like these other positions, like, you know, Winston at safety, Williams at linebacker. There are some pieces that will be able to get after the quarterback in the right scheme if Denard Wilson deploys them the right way. C- for linebacker so far. It does feel like the top 3 is clearly set. You've got Cedric Gray taking first-team reps for the first time all camp. I thought James Williams was okay outside of the box on Saturday night against Tampa. He's going to get pushed around a little bit inside of the box with big offensive linemen that come after him. He's going to have to learn how to play through the muck and the traffic. What'd you see from the linebacker? What'd you see from Cedric Gray getting a chance to start? Because he was he took some bad angles against Tampa. Like he was fine. I just didn't. There's still major questions about that position.
Yeah, I mean, Cedric Gray and James Williams combine to make a pretty darn good linebacker. I really like Cedric Gray in the muck, and I really like James Williams in space.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Unfortunately, both guys need to be better at both things. I am more and more confident that the top 3 linebackers on this team are pretty solid. And if we are being 100% honest with ourselves, that's not a position where there's a lot of heavy rotation. Your number 4 and your number 5 inside linebacker, not on the field all that much.
No, but when you say solid, you mean good or you mean set?
I mean good, kind of. Like I
need to see that.
I have made it very clear on this show and talking to anyone who will listen that your number 2 inside linebacker is the 11th most important position on a defense. I do not fundamentally believe that if your number 2 inside linebacker is bad, you're going to be bad because of it.
Sure.
So if this is a weak spot, I am a little bit more forgiving of that than some. But what I'm seeing in the growth from Williams, the growth from Gray, and the steadiness of Barton, I am less concerned about this position than I would have been 2-3 months ago. I still don't think there's much depth. I still don't feel overwhelmingly great if one of those guys goes down. But inside linebacker is a position like safety. You can get away with only playing 2 or 3 guys in a game.
Yeah, it's just also super easy to find productive players at this position, and they haven't been able to find any. Maybe they have with Gray and Williams. We'll see. But I don't disagree with anything you're saying. But if we're just talking about the position group and analyzing just the position group, not within the confines of the context of what you're saying about being the least important, I agree. Cedric Gray and James Williams form a great linebacker together as one human. Unfortunately, that's not how they exist in the world or on a defensive scheme. D+ for corner. And we started getting questions about this on Monday and Thursday last week about, man, I'm looking at the corners going, what are we doing? And I think Baker's been better than maybe people think, but they don't throw at him very much. McCreary has been solid, but he's a little bit more, he's clearly playing a different role. Brownlee, I think, he's going to have moments where he frustrates people, but also will have lots of really great moments. They need L'Jarius Sneed really bad to be back on this field. They need one of the rookies to maybe develop into somebody that they can depend on as a 5th or 6th corner. D+. D plus for the cornerback room, huh?
Yeah, I am maybe a little bit less forgiving on Baker, having seen the way the rotations were handled coming out of Tampa Bay. I think that they have reopened the file on some other options alongside Baker, trying to find somebody who can be an instant playmaker, whether that's Marcus Harris, the rookie they drafted, or Gabe Judy-Lally, or any of the other undrafted players who are still around.
Gabe Judy-Lally is the only one that I felt has made progress and is clearly like better.
Yeah. So, look, I am not talking down on any of these people, but I just see the rotations that I'm seeing at practice and believe that the Titans are unsettled at this position. And look, I talk to people. I hear things. We talk about some of the things I hear on this podcast. They keep an eye on this position if Snead's not back. Like, that is a position where movement is not just likely, but seemingly inevitable because, look, we talked about this last week. This defense is built on, if you cannot get to the quarterback, you need to have aggressive corners who can make plays because teams are going to be able to throw the ball against you, and you need your corners to affect the game. And if these guys can't affect the game, Darrell Baker had a really nice PBU against Drake London yesterday. Never mind the fact that the ball bounced off the back of his helmet. It was a nice PBU. He had nice tight coverage against Drake London in the end zone. And he was heated about it. And he really, really seemed excited about it. And I give him credit when he makes plays like that. But the team's still searching. And because of that, even more so than edge, I would say this is probably the position where I am the most yanking on my collar, curious what they're going to do.
I am with you. Here's the other thing. It's also why, as we move to we'll package safety with this too, because it's a B, one of your better grades. Winston's still not practicing due to, I guess, sort of like management and soreness maybe. But if you go Woods, Wood, Winston, Hooker, and Diggs, in theory, can you make up for some of the cornerback depth with a lot of experience at safety? Or
yeah,
no?
you can flip out Wood for Mike Brown also, or Kendall Brooks.
Brown,
also.
yeah.
Like there are a
lot of bodies.
There are a lot of bodies in the safety room who you have to feel a little bit confident about. We'll see with Quandre Diggs. He's still like a week back to football. Whether this is a actual shot to make the team or a chance to prove himself, or whatever you want to call it, like we still have to see there. But imagining Kevin Winston gets back soon, as he's kind of dealing with some aftershocks, that's a good room the Titans have here. And I feel comfortable in it. If they need to play big nickel with an extra safety, if they need to play big dime with two extra safeties, this is a position group I'm actually pretty confident in.
It should not be the strategy, but it's a strategy to have veteran players like Diggs as a fourth or fifth safety you keep on the roster, because it allows you to sort of, like, is, to your point about a big nickel, is Winston a better big nickel than maybe Gabe Judy-Lally? Maybe he is. So, like, we just got to figure that out. It's not the strategy, but it's an option for some flexibility down the road if they cannot find a better option at corner. Special teams, you gave them a C. The way I view it, is that it's like a good offensive line is when you don't talk about them, and I haven't really thought about or talked about the special teams unit much at all during camp, and that means they're not doing anything great, but it also means they're not doing anything bad.
And to be clear, that grade is for the specialists, not for the special teams overall.
Yeah,
I think the special teams overall have upgraded. I do like what I see more from them. We're talking about Johnny Hecker, we're talking about Joey Sly, and we're talking about Morgan Cox. And realistically, we're not really talking about Morgan Cox. Like, the long snapper, he's good at his job. We know he's good at his job. We're talking about the new guys, Sly and Hecker, who are a little bit tougher to evaluate. Sly has looked good. He's got a powerful leg. There are some days where he's not accurate, but there are also those days where he's trying to kick and hurry up and simulate some pressure and all that stuff. Hecker, a really, really tough player to evaluate, simply because he tries a bunch of knuckleballs and sliders and weird punts where I can't tell if he's shanking the ball or not. Like, I am not smart enough to know if that is intentional wobble or unintentional wobble.
One of them in the Tampa game looked like a bad punt.
Yeah,
now it got a good bounce, but it looked like a bad punt.
And so I am reserving judgment on whether or not these are bad punts or good punts that are disguised. I really don't know.
Yep. So offensive line, defensive line, and safety get a B. You've got C pluses for running backs and receivers. You got a C for specialists, tight ends and the quarterback. You've got a C- for the linebacker and a D for the edge and for corner. So defense, optional. 2025.
Look, not a thing that is a bad thing, but the Titans put their resources in depth on offense this year. Yeah. The goal was to create depth on offense. As a result, they didn't have the resources to create depth on defense. Will that strategy come back to burn them? As everything with the Titans, we can say the same sentence. It depends on if L'Jarius Sneed plays. So let's see.
Yep.
Let's see.
We shall see. Jordan, I have not heard any of Zarzer's broadcast yet, so I will listen. Maybe I'll do that this weekend, is check that out and give some feedback on that. Otherwise, make sure you check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages this weekend. 2 great local businesses. Tennessean, sign up for good journalism as well. Is Texas #1 team in the nation?
Sure. I'm fine with that. I would probably err toward Clemson right now, but I am totally fine with Texas.
I'm with you. I've got Texas 1, Clemson 2, and I haven't seen anybody with Clemson as high as me, and except for you now. So
yeah, but also
confirmation bias. All right,
confirmation bias. But also, I was talking about this with my dad last night. I think I can name maybe 2 or 3 players on Georgia this year and 2 or 3 players on Alabama this year. It is a year where I imagine these teams are good. I just don't know who they are yet. So they're probably 2 or 3 of the best teams in the country, but I just don't know who they are yet.
I think you say Ohio State funny when you said Alabama, because Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith are the 2 players you can name on Ohio State. They're the Georgia. Alabama is loaded.
No.
If you don't know the Alabama players' names, then you haven't been paying attention.
That's my point. I don't know their names. I just don't know their names.
Deontay Lawson and Caden Proctor and Ryan Williams and Ty Simpson named the quarterback. Like, they are very good.
You've named 3 guys I've heard of, and Deontay Lawson.
Okay, I'm just saying, like,
I'm telling you, I don't have time to read the Bama online right now.
I hear you, but your point, you don't have. This is my point. They are loaded with preseason All SEC guys. Georgia is not. This is, to me, your point was, and I agree with you. Georgia has a lot of questions. We will learn those answers over the course of the season, probably pretty quickly. We don't know what their names are right now. The answers for Alabama are known. Is my opinion. I think Ohio State and Georgia are the 2 teams that are in the same category, where they're both going to be very good by the end of the year, but we don't know what the names are yet.
Sure.
Because I think your point about Georgia is very valid. I think if Kirby Smart and Brian Kelly switched jobs, like right now, LSU's like preseason #1 and Georgia's like 9-3, 8-4. Because we don't. This is not a vintage Georgia offense or defense right now on paper. There's some really nice pieces there. We just don't know what they are outside of Gunnar Stockton. Basically.
Yeah, I am excited to see what becomes of the SEC this year. Yeah. But yeah, if I had to pick a #1, I would be between Texas and Clemson, like you are.
All right, enjoy the game over the weekend. Safe travels, my guy. Getting back from the ATL. Thanks to all of you for jumping into the comments. Appreciate all of you. Please rate, review, subscribe on a podcast app of choice. Give us 5 stars. If you do not give us 5 stars, you are a
loser. I don't know.
A hater.
I'll play a quick game of guess what kind of rental car I have this week. It's not a Camaro. Guess the rental car.
Did you drive from Nashville or did you fly?
I drove.
Okay. So you rented a car and drove to Atlanta.
Yes.
I'm going to go with a Toyota Corolla.
Ooh, we're talking a electric Kia.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Drove an electric Kia.
How was the electric car driving?
It drives nice, and then you have to find a charging station in Metro Atlanta, and you're just like, oh, it's 11 p.m. and I don't know where any of the charging stations
are. The one charge here got you all the way to Atlanta, right?
It did.
Okay. Did you consider stopping in Chattanooga for a charge?
I didn't need to.
Okay. And I'm just saying, like, like the half tank fill up, the early fill up, the preventative fill up.
A half tank fill up would be like, hey, let's stop for an hour. So
it takes an hour to charge this guy?
It takes 45 minutes to get up to 80% if you are using the fastest charger possible.
Oh my
if you're using a standard charger, like in a Kroger parking lot, it takes 8 hours.
You got to fix that EV industry before we're all adopters.
It takes 8 hours if you're using a standard charger.
That's an overnight deal there. You gotta give us. Now Tesla's apparently charging like less than 10 minutes, but
sure.
And they got the whole grid of their charging grid like all over the place. So come on, technology, let's go innovate. We got to get EVs on the road here. Let's go.
Or else I'll have to continue renting gas guzzlers.
Camaro. Want a Camaro, guy? You look like you want a Camaro. I'm gonna give you a Camaro. It's still one of my favorite stories. All right, thank you, Nick, for all your hard work, and we do appreciate it. Make sure you check out his coverage on the Tennessean, Tennessean.com. All right, my name's Braden Gall. Thank you all for listening. We will talk to you next week. PK and I are back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll talk to you then.